Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library. And today I have another great guest because, as many of you know, I'm based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's always a pleasure when I have other business owners from Charlotte on that can talk about their business and their journey. And as you can see from my guest's background, we're going to talk about the amazing world of fashion and bringing that to life. So I want to welcome Salah to the show. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Terrell, for having me. I'm really excited and very honored to be here today. Thank you so much. And Happy New Year, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy New Year to you too. Now, before we jump into Amira M and talking about your business, can you tell us a little bit about your background before starting this business?
Wow. Yeah. So my background is in government, from city government. I was born and raised in California. And so my background is in community development, community engagement, something that I really loved. And then I worked for the state of Louisiana, and then I worked for the city of Savannah and the police department in Savannah. And I'm currently working in the county here in North Carolina. Yes.
So, being from California, now we interviewed your husband on another interview, and he said it,
Right.
is in the army. So, how did you two meet?
Wow, that's a great story. I mean, I wish I had a lot of time to tell you, but I'm gonna give you the short of the long. I lived in Savannah, Georgia. My husband was born and raised in Savannah, Georgia, and I'm a thrifter. He likes to say I'm a hoarder, but I'm going to say I'm a collector of things, right? And so I met him. He was doing some volunteer work at a thrift store, and I was riding my bike through Savannah, and I was like, I'm gonna stop and see what they have in here. And that's how I met him. Wasn't
Okay.
really interested in him at the time, but I kept going back for the good deals that he was giving me, right? And then it just kind of grew from there. He's a really great guy. Love him dearly. And so that's the very, very I'm short of the long story.
And that's amazing. One of the things that I can say about, you mentioned about being a thrifter is that, thrifters have a very, I would say, a skill of being able to see things that other people don't, and being able to put things together to just bring it to life to where people are like, I didn't realize that could go together to make that. So,
Right.
tell
And
us a
what's
little.
interesting about what you just said is that when I first walked into the store, I was touching like material and going through these boxes of things. And then I sat on the floor. And the first question he asked me was, "Are you an artist?" And I was like, right. It's like I just like to dig and find things, find treasures, as I say. And so it's interesting that you say that, is that I just learned that I am a creative, you know, got older and was like, I'm a creative. Didn't know that. But yeah, I guess I am an artist in some type of way.
Awesome. So that makes me wonder, how did the rest of the journey unfold? I mean, going from thrifting to now working your way, over time into the business that you have now. So what really spurred the idea for this business?
Wow. So when I lived in Savannah, I took place in a bunch of parades, and Savannah has the second largest St. Patty's Day parade. And I would participate in them through the city of Savannah, and I started making headpieces. And my very first one, I think, was like the Chiquita Banana Lady hat, and it was like a hit, right? And then the second one I made for the following year was a feather mohawk, which was another hit. And then my final year in Savannah, the last one I made, I was like a mother oak tree. So my headpiece was actually a huge oak tree, and in this parade. So that's really how it started. And then it just grew into, I've always wanted to sew. And my father had bought me a sewing machine when I was 12, and I didn't have anyone to teach me how to sew. So I ended up just throwing it to the side. Fast forward 38 years later, I'm visiting my kids in California and for Christmas, and my son says, I need you to go to my stores with me. And I'm like, why I need to go to your stores with you? All right. I didn't come here to work, but we got to his storage and he started pulling all this stuff out. And then there was this cabinet. He's like, do you know what that is? And I'm like, no, I don't know what that is. And it was my very first sewing machine that my dad had bought.
Wow.
And so he gifted it to me. 38 years later, I brought it home. It was, I had to put it in the shop, and it took the guy, I think, like 3 weeks to, because it was all locked up, right? Hadn't been oiled in 38 years. But I was like, he's like, I know you sew, you're starting to sew now. So I wanted to make sure I saved it. Granny almost gave it away, but he says, I knew that you would love that because my dad has passed away. So he was like, I know that you're going to love this. So it grew from the headpieces and then me wanting to do something unique, right? And wanting to wear unique things. I'm one of those people where I don't want to walk out in the street and then I have on what everyone else has on, right? So just, and I was just doing it for fun. It's just, just a passion of mine. And it's kind of grown. I would post things on Facebook, and my friends and family were like, you need to sell that, right? And I was getting sales through there. But I was just doing it for fun. I was making stuff and just putting it on mannequins, right? And just letting it sit down in my basement. And people were like, you need to kind of start pushing your things. And so I think COVID-19 has slowed us down a little bit. And so, and I do have a regular job and I was still busy, but it gave me an opportunity to say, you know what, this is my time to really focus on my passion and what I love to do and to start trying to grow my business. And so that's where I'm at right now.
Okay, awesome, awesome. It's always interesting to hear the journey of like how people go from, something that they really enjoyed doing themselves to where
Right.
it started attracting the attention of others. And that is amazing. And I love to hear a little bit more about, the parades that you mentioned and what were the response that people gave you when they saw your unique pieces.
Wow. So, um, I will say that I have people stopping me and running out into the streets to take pictures with me. So, and I was holding up the parades. I was holding up the parades because, and the guy that there were officers on the side, and they were like, "You got to keep it moving." I was like, "But people want pictures, right?" So, um, and one woman wanted to buy my feather mohawk piece right off. I almost wore it for the interview, but I thought that would have been too much. But one woman wanted to buy my feather mohawk right off my head, and I was like, "No." I mean, it was the first time. It was like I saw something online. I was like, "I think I can replicate this." And I did. And so people are amazed. We had a parade here last year, and I made a huge feather. It's a huge headpiece. Yeah, it is. It's so big. And so someone was like, you know what, you can use that for Mardi Gras. A friend of mine came over and she was like, you know what, that's carnival. She's from Jamaica. She was like, I need you to make me a carnival outfit, right? When COVID is gone. So some really great feedback. And it really feels good because for me, I never think that anything is good enough that I do. And I think that's just a perfectionist in me. But people are really excited about the things that I do.
Gotcha. It's funny that you mentioned Carnival because that's exactly what as you were describing it, that's what I was thinking. Because
Right.
I thought back to like when I lived in Brazil and going to the Carnival parades there. And I was just
Mhm.
like, that's just the image that I had in my head.
Right, right. So, and that's exactly what it looks like. That second, that third, fourth headpiece, right, with the feathers that I made like last year is just for even me, I'm like, it's phenomenal. And then we did a 5K, I want to say 2 years ago. I walked it, I did not run, but I actually replicated the Dora Milaje from Black Panther, and they had a contest, and so everything was leather, and I had the sword, which of the spear, which is right in front of me, and I won first place in the contest.
Nice.
So I was
Nice.
excited about that. Yeah.
Nice. That is awesome. So, how did you go from, the building the headpieces to, the beautiful attire for parades and events to now I see in the back where I see the blazer and the bow ties. How did you start
Right.
transitioning into that?
So again, I wanted to sew and I started collecting sewing machines. Again, I'm not a hoarder, I'm a collector of things. And so I kept saying, I want to, I want to sew, I want to be able to make vintage clothing. I am a woman of color and we tend to have a little junk in our trunk. And so that vintage clothing does not fit me. So I wanted to be able to replicate that, right? And so I was like, I'm gonna get a sewing machine, I'm gonna learn how to sew. And I collected, maybe I shouldn't say this on video, but I will. I had 12 sewing machines. And when we moved here from Savannah, I was like, you got to do something, right? I have been collecting buttons and threads and really collecting. And honestly, I was hoarding it because I was like, I wasn't doing anything with it. So don't tell my husband I said that, but I was. And I was like, you know what? You need to take a class, just kind of a basic sewing class. So I looked at our technical college here, and I took a sewing class, 8 weeks. And I was just like, I love it. So again, me searching online and doing YouTube videos, right? You can learn how to do anything on YouTube. And it's just saying, I want to see if I can make this. And I've been making it and posting it on Facebook, and people have been loving it. And so yeah, that's kind of where it kind of started there, and it's growing.
Mhm. Awesome, awesome. So when people are looking at, Amira M's designs, and so what are the types of pieces that, people can buy or reach out to or expect from you?
Right. So I'm wearing one, and I call this, and I don't know if you can't really see it, but it's leather. So these are leather, and I cut this by hand. And it's called African Sunrise, and the earrings to match. And so you can get those. You can get behind me. There's a red, white, and blue piece, which is actually leather as well. And I named her I Too Am America. You have a green piece behind me, and then I'll scroll over just a little bit, and there is a piece that is made from a vintage African head pick, right? So just looking at different pieces, if there's something that you see that you might want made online, you can contact me, and I will definitely do my best. I can tell you, yes, I can do that, or nope, that's probably above my skill level. I'm still learning. But I do my best to do custom pieces, right? And not to really replicate anything, because I want people to have one of a kind items if at all possible.
Awesome, awesome. So where can they find you and find the photos and the different things that you share online or on social media?
So I have a Facebook page, and it's Amira M. My Instagram handle is I am Amira M. I'm working on my website as well as my Etsy shop. I've been asked several times, do you have an Etsy store? You have an Etsy store? And I'm like, no. So I was like, you need to get an Etsy store. So I'm in the process of building my Etsy store and building my website. And once those two are up, those will be posted on both my Facebook and my Instagram pages. If
Okay.
anybody has any questions, they're more than welcome to email me at it's Amira M at gmail.com, and that's ITSAMIRAM at gmail.com.
Perfect, perfect. Now, one of the things that I'm very curious is about is, you mentioned the names behind some of the pieces.
Mhm.
Are all of your pieces, do they have some meaning and inspiration behind each piece?
So as I thought about building my business and doing pieces, I think it's really important to have a name, right? And to have a name that means something. So we talk about all the things that have happened in the past year, and to people of color and just our nation, period, right? And so I always think it's important to be able to name something. So it just happened by chance. I was like, I made this piece, and I was like, that reminds me of an African sunrise, right? Because these are the African beads, African bone beads, the leather, the color of a sunrise. And so I was like, that reminds me of an African sunrise. And I was like, I need to give all my pieces a name. They don't all have names yet, but then when I did the red, white, and blue one, again, I just wanted to I thought about all the things that have taken place, and just about equity and equality, right? And said, I too am America, right? So when I wear that, it's like, me as a woman of color, I too am America. I matter. My voice matters. And so I just wanted to do something just to reflect that, and it just kind of happened. It's like things pop in my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna roll with that and see how that works. So when people come, I began attending some markets to sell my things, and there was one piece, and I called her Lady Sings the Blues No More. And so there was a woman who was interested, and I said, oh, that's Lady Sings the Blues No More. She's like, oh my goodness, it has a name? And I was like, yes. And she was, I want it. She bought it, right? And I was like, okay, this name thing is working. So I need to make sure I name every piece, and it needs to mean something, right? We'll see how that works. It worked for her. We'll see if it continues to grow.
I think that is an amazing approach because I mean it gives every piece a personality. Right?
Yeah,
That people it sticks with people longer. I know I have a client of mine that owns a restaurant, and when he launched his restaurant, it's like everything on the menu was given some type of name.
right.
To where he named some things after people, some things after
Mhm.
events, to where it just stuck with people. So I think that is an amazing approach.
Thank you. Thank you. So that lets me know I'm not original. Hey, but it's all good, right? I mean, I think it works.
Mhm. Yes, it does. It does. Now, are you also I guess with COVID, it hasn't taken place as much. But do you ever sell anything at at different events in Asheville or at different places?
Yes, definitely. So I'm going to shout out the city of Asheville and Rosanna, who actually referred my husband and I over to you to be interviewed today. But the city of Asheville is working with entrepreneurs of color. And so what they did was there was several markets taking place, and they paid the fees for us to attend these markets. I thought it was great. And I was like, this is an opportunity for me to really get out there and try to push my things, right? Because again, I've been posting on Facebook. I've been posting on Instagram. It's my family and my friends. They're going to be nice to me and say, yeah, do the ball. And but I really wanted to get out there, and no shade against my family and friends. I love you all. But I wanted to get out there and be able to have people tell me, yep, I think that's wonderful. That's awesome. Or nope, that's a dud. And maybe you need to try something different. I really wanted feedback. I think one of the ways to grow my business is to be able to figure out, is it sellable? Right? Will people wear it? So people will see this piece and I say, touch it. It's very light. And they're like, oh my goodness, it is light. I thought it was going to be heavier. And I've gotten great feedback. So I did markets. I think one of the markets I did was like 27 degrees. I was like, I am freezing. But guess what? I made some sales. So it was great. It was good. And the feedback and the people that I met, I got a couple of custom orders, was really awesome. I'm hoping that, as the spring comes and hopefully COVID kind of pushes back, that I'll be able to attend more places and more markets. I've been told I should go to Atlanta. I should go to Chicago. There's different places that I should go because they have these really great markets where I could sell my things. So I'm going to continue to push and grow that as well.
Awesome. That is amazing. That is amazing. So before we wrap up, one last question I'd like to ask is when you think about, your journey of going from, something that you did yourself to where it attracted attention to where moving it into a business, what's one piece of advice that you would share with other business owners?
I would say, and again, I'm very new at this. I started my business in 2019. This is 2020, and I just started really growing my business. I would say put the work in. I think the most precious thing that you can give to your business is your time, right? And we spend a lot of time working like our regular gigs and putting a lot of effort into that. And so I am a person, I sleep about 4 to 5 hours a night, and I'm up at 3 or 4 in the morning before I go to work, and I'm working. I'm creating. I'm doing whatever I can. And when I come home from work, I'm here downstairs in my basement for about 2 or 3 hours before I go to bed. Again, creating and pushing my business, educating myself, taking classes. I would just say work your business, right? Work your business. If you want it to grow, you have to work it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I absolutely love it. And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming on to sharing your journey with us, telling us more about your business, and definitely wish you all the best in 2021. Thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you, Terrell, and I appreciate it again for you having me on. I'm very honored. Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.